hear, evidence, learn, proceed sessions, the number one choice is verticals. So we'll do it, right? And that's the one we're going to build out today. But here's the secret. Now that we've had that executive team meeting and we've all unified together and said, okay, this is what our goal is. Now, how do we really proceed? And the first stage, the stage that means the most, is how do you build the team to be successful when you're going to launch any revenue initiative? In this case, we're going to build out the vertical one. And the goal is the same as the exercise from Tuesday. Right? It's measurable. It's exactly what we need in order to succeed and what we're going to do. We're going to build an offering for this space and this much time, and this is how much revenue is going to produce our organization. We're going to measure success X, Y, and Z by customer success, by new logos. But everybody, and let's start with the rule that we all learned, why we succeed. So we're going to start our list. And the first one is because all of you are going to be aligned now. You're going to be aligned with each other. Everybody has to be aligned on the executive team before you start any revenue initiative. Right? We all learned the motivations of conflict when we don't do that. So now we put all the teams necessary together. So each of the executives are going to allocate one individual, one powerful individual, and we'll get to the effective meeting again. We're going to reference that a lot through today. But we build our client-facing team and we build our internal support team. Everyone that's going to be necessary for all of those stages of change that our avatar or our ideal client is going to need. And so maybe we should revisit that. But every team is present. We're going to bring the entire team together of each of the individuals we've chosen for the new vertical. And we're going to have our Socratic forum, right? We're going to hear, evidence, learn, proceed. We're going to help. As a leadership team, we're going to make sure everybody is comfortable with the goalposts, where they are, what we're trying to do, because communication calms anxiety. So if we just go back to that why we succeed list, overall, the team, it starts with the executives. They're building this incredible goal. They look at the evidence, they learn, they all proceed. We put one individual from every business unit in the room because ownership incubates velocity. If we don't have ownership, and this is the motivations, if people don't feel like they're in control, they resist, they pull back, they hold. We have to give people the ability. Success is when people feel like they know where they're going, they are in control of that, and they're working with others that are going to help them be successful. Right? All of that we've learned from the experts. That is the key to velocity, right? And so ownership incubates velocity is the way that I like to think about it. You let people own their success by enabling them effectively. When we don't let the power follow the decisions, it creates chaos within our businesses, right? Start to overrule or make decisions in vacuums, and it just becomes a nightmare. Everybody becomes unmotivated. And so we have to be very conscious about how we transition, right? How do we transition from our executive team now, from taking that goal and putting it into velocity, right? Putting it into moving. But what's important now is that executive sponsor is the only communication path to the executive team. We do not want the executive team interacting with anybody else within the vertical. Interacting is fine, but not details about the project. All of it has to come through the executive. And that way we are sure that everybody has the exact same information, right? It goes back to our one data source rule in meetings. But now let's start building out all of the people, their roles and responsibilities of the individuals, what they need. And we're just going to map it back to our stages of change, which we did yesterday, about how everybody goes through a stage of change. And that's including your ideal customer, your avatar, your business, right? There's a time that they don't know anything about you and they have no idea. And then something spawns their interest and they start to look at themselves and they're like, Oh, I wonder if I've got that same problem. Something has helped them. And then they move and they start looking externally. So let's just stop after those first 3 stages. Because then they move into, we're going to prepare for change. So when they start looking externally, then they're going to have to say, okay, we are going to fix this problem at some point in time. And then they change. We are going to adopt a solution that's going to help us fix that problem that we originally had no idea about. And we are going to go until we get all the way to success. And change can be a very short process. If it's, a service that as soon as you turn on, you start, seeing benefits and you have success, that's one. If it's an offering that, many of you in the room have, where it's a long implementation, we had a lot of discussions around that change process, right? Of how long it takes and who in your new vertical team that you're building is going to be responsible. After they've, made that milestone of success, what do they do, right? Well, they have to maintain that success. And I know we're beating this to death but it means something. You have to map your exact customer, the customer you love, the one you want, to all of these stages in order to help your teams roll, which we've done. And so again, we'll start off by talking about the traditional. When you think of your buyer and they've got no idea, and then they decide, okay, we should look at something. Usually that's a marketing avenue, and marketing responsibilities and sales takes over when the company starts to look externally and they're preparing to change, and then sales has to get them to committing to change. And then your implementation folks, your professional services delivery team, they help turn on that success. And then support takes over and everything else. But let's not forget about the internal team that we need, because it is so important. Your internal team, recruitment, enablement, development, your client success organization, your customer success, whatever your business is built, anybody who may not actually be part of the customer's journey or those avatar stages of change, they have to be in the room because they are part of the business. It's the same as like building a business plan, which we did, before we went through this process. But what you do is you sit there and you kind of define everyone's responsibilities. And marketing goes, well, my responsibility is moving somebody to start looking externally. And so it's because when you realize the swim lanes and we start to build out the swim lanes effectively, everybody starts to calm down. Now let's stop and talk about the internal teams now, right? The internal teams are more important for different stages, right? Your development team, they're part of helping marketing and sales drive new revenue or upsell existing revenue. But they're also, making sure that the existing clientele or the existing avatar stays happy. So they move and maintain. And so you're going to go ahead and allocate everybody's goals. Some people are going to be movers. Some people are going to help them maintain success. And you'll start to hear these random statements that'll start floating around now that you have your vertical. If you're when you all are the executive sponsor in one of these meetings, you're going to start seeing it and start listening for it. Comments, like, oh, I'm going to need an enablement program to help train people around verticals, or someone, a company I know, they're like, well, we need fixed implementation so we know our costs. But we're at that stage where we can start defining what the requirements are that everyone's going to require in order to be successful in each of their stages. And we just take an example of executive, we're going to stop before we move into how do we build out the success map. And you're ultimately going to be responsible for the success of each of your verticals through coaching, through allowing people to run at their own pace. So let's put on our succeed. Why won't we succeed? Well, we won't succeed if there's no hand raisers. So how do we build everyone else's requirements? And that's the next stage. We're going to move to that success map.